All right, this is Brooks from Asian Efficiency. I'm joined by my co-host Tan, the CEO of Asian Efficiency, where we help people become more productive at work and in life. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. Thanks so much for being here. We thought it would be a little fun to start the episode with a little demonstration of today's topic, which is how AI can make you more productive. What do you think, Tan? Can we retire to the beach and just have AI read out all the podcasts going forward?
Now, if you're a little bit skeptical about AI, I think it showed you how powerful it can be. It's a little rough around the edges, but I think the machines are going to take over at some point. But it's not going to be as scary as you think it will be. And after today's episode, I think everyone is actually going to embrace AI moving forward.
Yeah, like it or not, the AI tools are here, and we can make it work for us as knowledge workers. This can actually enhance us. So that's the way we want to look at it today. We want to show how these AI tools can actually make us more productive. We're going to talk about tools that we use internally, tools you can use right now. So Tan, why don't you share with the people what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, so we have 3 parts to this episode. So the first part is we're going to be talking about 5 AI helper tools that can help do your work a lot faster, sometimes even 100 times faster. So we're going to talk about how you can do research faster, how you can do editing faster, how you can come up with creative writing and do it faster, create presentations and do that almost 10 times faster. There's a lot of cool tools that are out there that I want you to check out. We're also going to be talking about how existing productivity tools that you and I like and how they are start using AI in their tool set as well, and how you can take advantage of this. And then also we'll end the episode a little bit with where we think AI is going forward in the future and how it's going to benefit you and what you should be paying attention to as well. And as always, we like to start off our episode with our top 3 favorite resources. And today that is also around AI. So the first resource I want to recommend is a book called Artificial Intelligence, A Modern Approach, Practical Mixed with Theory. And this is a great introductory book on the whole idea of what artificial intelligence is, or AI for short. And if you're brand new to this, I highly recommend you check out this book. It's very practical. It's very simple read. And I think it encompasses everything that we will talk about, but also go beyond that. So go check out that book. Another resource I want to recommend is copy.ai. So if you're somebody who does a lot of writing in terms of copywriting, you write email newsletters, you write blog posts, you write copy on the web, or you just write content in general, and you want to do it faster, go check out copy.ai. This is an online tool that you can use that uses artificial intelligence where you can literally type in, hey, write me a blog post on Asian efficiency, and it will tell you what to write about and actually give you content that you can then use as a starting point. So it's a great way to speed up a lot of things that you do already in your writing workflow. So go check it out, copy.ai. And then the third resource I want to recommend is a course that we have called Automation Academy. This is our online course on automation and workflows. So today's podcast episode was all about how we can speed up our existing workflows and introduce new workflows using AI to do things a lot faster, sometimes even 100 times faster. But we already have a course where we show you how to automate everything that you do on your computer, not using AI necessarily, but if you think about everything you do on a day-to-day basis, all the mundane tasks, the emails, the research, there's a lot of things you can automate to save 3 to 5 hours a week. And that's what this course is all about. You can check it out at theproductivityshow.com/automation. And everything that we talk about just now and moving forward, you can find everything in the show notes by going to theproductivityshow.com or just swipe in your podcast app.
All right, let's get into it. And we're going to start with the first topic, and we are going to talk about some tools that make you more productive. We've got 5 of them, but it'll probably devolve into even more as we go. Because the funny thing about this is as we've been, even in the last week or two, we've started using more and more of these tools internally, and I'm really excited to share those with the audience. And I'm going to start with the first one, and it's one that a lot of people have been talking about, and it's called ChatGPT. We've mentioned it a few times on the podcast in the past, but I would say, I don't know about you, Tam, but I would say our use of it has exploded over the past week or so even. And basically, you can check it out at chat.openai.com. And basically how it works is you go to the website, you type in a question or a phrase or a prompt, and it will give you an answer, which is pretty simple, but you can do so much with it. And the power of it is actually quite deceptive. The more you use it, the more powerful it becomes. And so you can have it generate ideas, you can have it compare things, write things, you can have it generate code for you. You can do an almost unlimited amount of helpful and maybe not so helpful stuff. And so I thought we would share some examples of the way that we've used this episode. I thought I'd start with some examples of the way that we use ChatGPT. It's kind of like one of those things that is a fun party trick at first. You show people or you just try typing in a few things. But once you start putting it to work for you, it's pretty insane. So an example is at the start of this episode, the intro that you heard at the beginning of the episode. I didn't write it. Tan didn't write it. ChatGPT wrote it. And what I did is I typed in, write a podcast introduction that introduces the productivity benefit of AI tools. And that's what it wrote. So that's a perfect example that Robot Brooks said at the intro. You can also learn facts. We actually put this to use at Christmas time. My family was over and my mother-in-law brought over congee, which is if you don't know, is like a Asian rice soup, I guess is the way to put it. And my wife wanted to put in what's called a 1,000-year egg. And we started talking about, obviously these eggs are not actually buried for 1,000 years, or sometimes they're called century eggs. So we were talking about how long do they actually bury these things? So we looked it up and it gave us the whole description of that. You can do comparisons. I saw a thread on Twitter where someone said they save actually an hour a day by doing competitor analysis using ChatGPT. You just ask it to compare different companies. They use that as a starting point and go from there. You can also brainstorm ideas. So if you are maybe wanting to write articles or something about treasury management, you can just say, give me a list of blog post topics about treasury management, and we'll give you a lot of actually really good topics. And you can do so much with it. Tan, I know you've been using it a lot, so maybe you can share some ways that you've been using ChatGPT.
Absolutely. So for those who are new to ChatGPT, think of it as like a chatbot that you are talking to and you're typing with, and it will literally give you the answer. So instead of doing a Google search where you then have to go through a bunch of lanes and come up with your own conclusion, you're talking to a super intelligent machine that can actually speak to you in human language and give you the answer based on the research it has done all over the internet, right? So think of it as a super intelligent machine that you're literally interacting with. So there's literally a text field where you can type in whatever you want to type in and it will spit you the answer. So it's almost like a Siri or an Echo, but it's actually giving you useful answers instead of just giving you a bunch of links. So if you're brand new to ChatGPT, go check it out. So what makes it powerful is, like Brooks said, is the prompts that you give it to the machine. So the better the prompt, the more useful the tool becomes. So for example, you could, like Brooks did, say, hey, what is a century egg? And it will tell you the description of what a century egg is, right? But you can take it way beyond that. For example, I even typed in, I wanted to calculate how many calories I burn every single day, right? And that is called DEE, totally daily energy expenditure. It's a technical term. And if you think about this formula, it's complex, but you have to basically type in a bunch of different things, and it then actually will calculate how many calories you burn every single day. Because I was like, okay, I want to know like how many calories I should eat if I want to lose weight. And usually they recommend that you eat 400 or 500 calories less than what your TD is. So I literally typed in, hey, tell me what my TD is. I am 5'8", 170 pounds. I'm 170 centimeters, and I'm 35 years old. And that's all I typed in, and then I would hit enter, and it would show me the calculation. It will say, hey, based on your data, this is what the formula is. I'm going to plug in the numbers that you gave me, and based on this, your total TDE is roughly around 2,300 calories. And I go, whoa. And I use completely different metrics because I use centimeters, the metric system, and then also use pounds, the weights. And so it would actually be able to calculate on its own all the different units and come up with an answer, right? But you can go even further than that. So for example, it can write legal agreements as well. So let's say you're lending $1,000 to a buddy of yours, right? Now, instead of just hoping that person will pay back, you could put it in writing, right? So I literally said to ChatGPT, write me a legal agreement for me to borrow or for me to lend $1,000 to my friend, and he will pay it back before 2024. And then it would literally write a legal agreement for me and say, okay, like the borrower and the grantor and like all these technical terms that I don't even understand. And it would actually write it down in 5 seconds for me. And then I could technically use that if I wanted to, right? Or you could also do research. You could type in like, who is Tan Pham of Asian efficiency? and then it will actually spit out a short bio on that person. So this is something that has been super helpful with, for example, if I interview a guest for the podcast, I could literally type in, who is this person of this company? And it will give a short bio. And I could then also say, write me a bio of Brooks Duncan of Asian Efficiency and his accomplishments. And then it would spit something out as well, because it can do all the research online and do it for you very quickly. So then naturally, I start to think, oh, what if I could create a ton of content around this, right? So Brooks, you hinted at this too. With ChatGPT, you can create unique content. So you could literally say, hey, write me a blog post of 500 words on the productivity benefits of AI. And then it would literally write you an article in front of you, roughly around 500 words. And then you can use that as a piece of content. So a lot of people are now speculating that a lot of freelance writers and copywriters are going to run out of business. And maybe that's a little extreme, but it's definitely possible to get a lot of creative juices going, because even though it's a little rough around the edges, the content is pretty good. But also, I use it all the time for generating headlines and titles. So I would say, give me 10 headlines for an article on productivity benefits of AI. And then it would give me like 10 different headlines. And these are all like really cool headlines that I could use. And so there's just infinite possibilities. It's just how creative you want to be. And the smarter the input that you give it to the machine, the better the output will be. So it's really up to you how you want to use it.
Yeah, when I tell friends and families about this and try to show them, the answer I get multiple times is, can't you just Google that? And yes, you can Google all this stuff. But the thing about using a search engine is that you do a search, you've got a ton of results back, which may or may not be what you're looking for. You have to go in each one. Sometimes it gives you a little demo, but you have to go in each one. You've got people spamming it to try and, or doing SEO hacks to try and get up at the top. And it's all that type of stuff. And you have to do the work of finding what you want to do. The point of using these AI tools, in this case, ChatGPT, is that it will do the work for you. It will give you the answer, and then you can then build on that answer. So that's another thing. So you could say, you were saying, give me the, like you said, give me the productivity benefits of AI. It will give you a list. And then you could say, what about the ones that are really focused on time saving? And then it will go another layer. So it's like that. You just keep digging the layers and get more and more powerful answers. So I'm really excited about it. We're going to see where it goes. You don't necessarily want to only use ChatGPT or AI answers. Like I know you were talking about freelancers, and I just saw that a website called Stack Exchange, which is like a question and answer for technical topics. They've actually banned AI generated answers. And sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not. But the point is, it just saves you so much work of getting started. And then you can take what it gives you and then apply your own expertise from there. So I'm a big fan, and I'm really excited about it. All right, so that is one tool. Another tool is very similar in the sense that it answers prompts that you give it, but another tool that I want to highlight is an image generation tool. So the way this works is you have a prompt, you tell it what you want to create. So you type in, I want to create an image that is XYZ, and then it will generate it for you. There's lots of different tools that do this, but one I want to highlight is called Midjourney. And Midjourney, like I said, you type in a prompt. So you say, an example that I gave is I typed in a prompt for, I want an image of a stressed out person with time management problems. And what it will do is it will generate an image for you based on that prompt. The way Midjourney works is different because it actually is not a website per se. It actually, you sign up through a website, but it actually works on Discord, which, if you're not familiar with Discord, is a chat tool similar to a Slack or a Microsoft Teams. And the way it works is you sign up for Midjourney, you get an invite to the Discord, and then you can see the image prompts that everyone else is creating, and everyone else can see your image prompt. And you might think to yourself, I don't want anybody to see what I'm generating, or I don't want to see other people's, which you can pay to get a private room. That's no problem. But the benefit of doing it this way is you can learn from what everyone else is doing. You can see how people are tweaking it to get the results they want. And like we talked about with ChatGPT, this stuff can build on itself. And so you can get your initial set of results back and you can say, ask for more variations. Like, I want it similar, but a little different. Or you can have tweaks and stuff like that. And by seeing what other people do, you can then tweak yours and learn how to create pretty stunning images just from your prompts. So what I've done is I've generated a few prompts just to show you. We've linked to in the show notes, so you can go to theproductivityshow.com. There's one I typed, a person demonstrating how AI tools can make you more productive. There's one, like I said, a stressed out person with time management problems. And then just to experiment, I said, a happy, peaceful Asian man near the beach with an iPad. And that one, we're going to talk about this in a little bit. That one is a little iffy. And that third one about the Asian man, I think shows some of the limitations of these AI tools, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit. How about you, Tan? Have you ever used any of these generative image apps? I know there was one called Lensa that was really popular there for a while. What's your experience with these?
I've tried a few different AI tools to create all these images, and I definitely hopped on the train of the Lensa profile pics that everyone else was doing. So you've probably seen the photos where everyone generated like photos of themselves, like looking like superheroes and a little bit futuristic. And that was an app called Lensa that basically used the AI engine that everyone else uses, which is Stable Diffusion. And it's free. It's actually, everybody can use this, but they created an app for it where you would pay like $10 and then it would basically generate these images for you. And they don't even own the technology. They just know how to create those images using a free artificial intelligence tool that everyone is using right now, which I thought was pretty genius. Kudos to the creators who made that. Personally, I like DALL-E better, so DALL-E. And it's basically the same engine behind it, but it has credit limitations right now because computing all this stuff is pretty expensive and it's time consuming. So you get 50 credits during your first month and then 15 credits will refill every single month. For example, I literally typed in a fish dunking a basketball, and then it would just show me 4 different pictures of the fish dunking a basketball with different backgrounds and different fishes. And so you can get really fun and creative that way, where let's say you're making thumbnails for YouTube, or you're making images for your blog post or for your newsletter, or like a thumbnail for any social media content that you create. You can create really unique content that way by just prompting this AI engine to make those things for you. So now, like a lot of people, for example, they have an Etsy store where they make custom drawings of dogs or pets and then sell them to people, which, you know, is a human art that someone actually did. But now people are using DALL-E and all these AI engines to make images and then sell them on Etsy now, because the machine does it a lot faster than a human can. And you can't probably tell the difference as a consumer who created what. So it gets a little dicey now with all the e-commerce stuff, what's human and what's computer generated. And I wouldn't be surprised moving forward if people will start paying for computer generated art in a way the NFT craze was a little bit about. But moving forward, I think it's going to change the game, honestly, for a lot of things artists do, and how they use their workflows and incorporate it in the art that they create. So I'm really excited for this technology.
Yep, some other tools that you can use. There's one called Tome, and what that lets you do is create presentations with AI. So you can type in a prompt. Yeah, as an example, we typed in future of productivity tools using AI. And what it'll do is it'll actually generate slides for you. And again, this is bringing together some of these tools, ChatGPT and for the text and DALL-E for the images. And it's basic, but it's a great starting point. You don't want to, if you're making a presentation for something, you don't want to just type a prompt and be done, but it will get you 30% of the way, 50% of the way, 70% of the way, and then you can make it your own. So that's the power of this stuff. It just frees up so much time. Another thing you can do is Adobe has it's in beta right now, and it's a tool called Podcast Enhance. And I think the code name for it is Shasta. You can go to podcast.adobe.com/enhance. And what this does, and probably if you're listening to this, you're not a podcaster, but really this works for any type of audio. If you have audio, it does an astonishing job of cleaning up. If maybe the sound quality isn't the best, maybe there's some weird sounds, maybe the person's mic isn't very good, maybe there's background noise, something like that. It does an absolutely amazing job of cleaning that up. So if you have audio, maybe you've recorded in a classroom or something like that, or a Zoom call, you want to clean up the audio, it does a really good job. For example, we had a guest on the productivity show recently. I'm not going to throw them under the bus, but their audio wasn't the best, let's just say. But I ran it through that Adobe Podcast Enhance, and it sounds like they're in an NPR studio or something like that. It's quite. Another tool is Mem. So Mem is, I think, an up and coming productivity tool. The way I think about it is an AI-ified version of, say, Notion or Coda. And basically what it wants you to do is put in your notes and then your documents and stuff like that, and it will create relationships between them. It will find the best way to use it, and it will do a lot of that busy work you do in a lot of these other tools with you. And it's actually really impressive. So Mem is something we're watching a lot. And there's a lot of tools out there. We could have this whole episode just naming tools, but those are some of the ones we wanted to highlight. Was there anything else you wanted to mention in this section, Tam?
There's one website that uses AI technology called Do Not Pay, and it's the first robot lawyer or attorney that's available right now. And it originally started off fighting parking tickets in San Francisco. The Stanford grad was upset that the city basically gives people all these tickets and then banks on the idea that people have no time to fight them. So even though someone legitimately parked somewhere and paid for the meter, they would sometimes still give people tickets because they knew that most people would just never fight those tickets and don't have the time and energy to do so. They would just pay the ticket and then move on with their life. But this student was so upset about this that he said, you know what, I'm going to fight this, and I'm going to create an AI machine that will basically, if you scan the ticket, it will then write the letter for you to appeal the ticket, and it had a 65% success rate or so. Now, considering that the city of San Francisco generates over $130 million a year in revenue from tickets, imagine losing 65% of that. That's pretty insane, right? And then it started to expand in other things. So, for example, if you got a letter about your property taxes, which is like a big thing in America, and it went up in price and you have to pay more taxes as a result, you can appeal that as well. And it will actually ask you like, hey, where do you live? How old is your house? Blah, 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 blah. You just give it information and it will generate a letter for you with like beautiful legalese. And then you can then submit that off and stuff. And there's tons of other services it has. Like, for example, sometimes when I deal with government entities, I still have to fax something every now and then, which I know sounds crazy, but that's still a thing nowadays. And so they have a service too where you literally scan a PDF and then will fax it for you. So there's so many things that it will do for you. And it's about $36 per 2 months. And I've been playing around with it and I've been really impressed by it. So go check it out. Do not pay.
All right. We want to mention, Tan mentioned this earlier, but we do want to give a heads up for our tool called Automation Academy. It's not really a tool, more of a program, but basically AI tools are great for speeding up the work that you do. But there's a lot of things we do on our computers, on our devices that take up a lot of time. We call them time squanders is the term we use. But you can create workflows and automate the things that you do every single day. And this can actually free up a ton of time. If you go to theproductivityshow.com/automation, you can check out our program called Automation Academy, which has so many tools and techniques and things we've created for you that you can save so much time with the stuff you already do that you can layer on top of these AI tools that we're talking about. All right, so we've talked about these productivity tools that are coming out that really save you a lot of time, but it doesn't just end with these tools that have been created just for AI. A lot of times we're all using all these tools now, and AI features are starting to come to the tools that we use every single day. So you don't need to switch to a new tool to take advantage of a lot of these things. So we're going to share some productivity apps that are using AI features to make it more efficient. And we've talked about a few on the podcast recently, like Notion and Todoist have been adding AI features. So you can do things like type in a prompt, prepare for a trip to San Francisco, and it will generate some action steps for you. Or you could type project retrospective meeting agenda, and it will create a meeting agenda for you from that. So a lot of these tools that we're using are adding stuff like that. Another example is note-taking tools are starting to add a lot of this stuff. So LogSeek and Coda as examples. If you're working on something and you want to research stuff, you don't have to have 10 tabs open with different research stuff. You could be in the middle of writing something and you can just do a prompt, give me a 1-paragraph summary of getting things done by David Allen, and it will generate that for you right there. So you don't have to be going to all these different places. You can keep working in the tool that you love, but it will really help you streamline your workflow. So it avoids a lot of this context switching and distractions. So that's one example of tools that are starting to add AI features. Image apps, as you might imagine, based on what we were just talking about with Midjourney, image tools are starting to add this as well. So for example, there's a Mac tool called Pixelmator Pro. And I know Adobe is starting to add this stuff to their suite as well. And they can do all sorts of image cleanup, repair colors, repair backgrounds, just do a lot of stuff that you used to have to sit there with a zoomed in, fine-tooth brush tool to fix. These AI enhancements can do it all for you, save you so much time. One of the original examples of a tool that adds AI is DevonThink. So DevonThink is a Mac app. It's been around forever for holding your content, your documents, your notes, and it basically will do the dream of organizing stuff for you within DevonThink. So if you're somebody who uses DevonThink, you can create your big folder structure however you want. You can also let the AI tools in DevonThink organize stuff for you. So there's a lot that is being added all the time. Even Excel, sometimes we think of Microsoft being a little slow. They're starting to add these features, like there's a data analysis button in Excel that responds to prompts. So like we've been talking about, you can type in prompts and it will give you suggestions to analyze data. I used to spend so much time creating pivot tables and stuff like that just to get something simple, but you can actually have it generate it for you with the data analysis button. It's really excited. How about you? It's really exciting. How about you, Tan? Is there any AI features that you would like to see or that you're starting to use?
One feature I would love to see for productivity apps to incorporate is somehow integrating their calendars and to-do lists together. So for example, if I know that I'm going to be working on 3 particular tasks, that it would automatically schedule it on my calendar. How cool would that be? Especially if it can align it with whenever you're most focused, whenever you're most energized, and it can learn that about you based on historical data of your calendar. So that's something that I think would be so cool. And I probably would say it's not too far away. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next year or so, this would actually be possible. I know some apps have tried this in the past, but I've never been a big fan of them. But I think with the AI tools and technology that we have available now, this will only get easier. Now, another thing that I think will happen in the future, there's actually a company called Adapt AI, which basically think of it as like a Siri on your computer where you literally type in a request and it will do it in front of you on screen. So it's like a mix of, think of it as like a keyboard maestro, but instead of creating a macro, you would just type in, hey, find me a house in Austin for 4 people and my budget is $600,000. If you type it in, this browser extension created by Adapt, which is being released soon, would then open up redfin.com, type in the search Austin, Texas. On the right sidebar, it will then click the filters of for 4 people and the budget range is set to $600,000. Like it could actually do that for you. And there's like a demo that they show on screen. So imagine doing something like that where you have a CRM, like we use a CRM here at Asian Efficiency, where you can literally type in, hey, add Brooks Duncan as a lead for coaching clients and tag him as super interested. And then you would just literally type that in and then the tool will just like click and then it would be added into the CRM. Like how cool would that be? And it can actually do very similar things in Excel as well. So if you have an Excel document, it actually showed you in the demo, had all these columns of revenue, cost, expenses, the vendor name and stuff. And you would literally type in, and it will show you, hey, add 2 columns, profit and profit margins. And then it will literally just add those columns in and then punch in the numbers based on the data that's on screen. And it'll go, whoa, this is insane. And then it would also be able to create macros and formulas for you as well. So there's no need to learn all these crazy Excel things. Like ChatGPT can do that already for you, but also with the tools that I think are available very soon, it's going to eliminate the need for really understanding a lot of those formulas. And you can just literally type in like plain English, this is what you want, and then the tool will generate it for you. Look out 2023, 2024. This is going to be a reality very soon, I think.
Man, you can barely even get an apartment in Vancouver for $600,000, let alone a house. That sounds pretty good. All right, you referenced the future, so we might as well move right into the next section, which is the future of AI and productivity. Some of the things that we see is coming down the road, both things that we would love to see and also things we may want to keep an eye on. This stuff, we've been very enthusiastic about this stuff, and we are for sure. But there are some things to keep in mind of. It's very clear that more and more apps are going to be adding AI tools of some sort. I think we all can understand that. A lot of what we've talked about, almost everything in some ways, have been using a technology called GPT-3, and sometime in 2023, GPT-4 is going to be released. So that is going to add a whole other layer. A lot of people are saying it's just going to expand what is possible, like we can't even imagine. So that is something to watch out for. There's some issues. A lot of what we've been talking about is all comes from the one company called OpenAI. And so anytime you have one company kind of controlling everything, that's something to keep an eye on. And it opens up some issues like privacy, right? What happens with all this data that we're typing into these things, or what happens to all these images that we're uploading? Where are these things going? So that's something to be aware of. A lot has been come up already about intellectual property rights. The way generative AI works is, of course, it has to learn from something. So it's being fed information from the web, being fed images to learn how to create more images. And it's not really clear, do they even have the rights for a lot of these things that they're creating? So this is something to be aware of. You want to keep an eye on that as well. Another thing is bias. Like I said, since AI has to be trained, it responds to the data that you give it, and it doesn't know any better, right? If you're giving it a bunch of racist data, it's going to give you a lot of racist responses and go even more and more, whatever you feed it. And this is an issue that has come up time and time again with AI. Even ChatGPT, people were trying to find this stuff, and so the OpenAI people were trying to lock it down even more. Even that Mid-Journey Asian issue. Even that Mid-Journey Asian example, some people might consider at least some of those issues some people might consider some of those images a little iffy. So this is something that I think is going to, as we go into more and more AI generated stuff, is going to be raising more and more issues. So it's something we want to watch for. Things we're hoping for, I know for myself, a lot of what we talked about so far is responding to prompts. You type something in and it gives you something back. But I think the future of AI, like you talked about, Tan, is for us not to need to do that, for it to know what we want before we even do. Like somebody created this tool called emailtriager.com. And the idea for that is it's watching emails that come in and then automatically creating responses. It puts it in drafts, but automatically creating responses. So you don't have to manually ask it to send emails or create emails, doing it without you asking. And that's the dream for a lot of people, is for it to really not rely on us knowing the right thing to type. How about you, Tan? Is there anything other than what you've mentioned already? Is there anything you're looking for AI for 2023 and beyond?
I think we're just scratching the surface of what AI can do for us. I remember back in 2018, Google released this demo where you could see an AI tool calling a hair salon and making an appointment, and sounded very human. So you saw a live call on screen, and the lady went, okay, when would you like the appointment? 1 o'clock? And then the bot go, yeah, 1 o'clock sounds fine. It literally sounded like a human. It wasn't like very robotically at all. And that was like 5 years ago. So imagine what's possible now today and also into the future as well. So I think, especially with all the HomePods, Echoes, all these smart devices that we have at home, eventually it's going to embed the technology as well, where we will be able to talk to it and it will actually give us all the answers, kind of like how ChatGPT is doing it for us now. So instead of giving us a bunch of links or like a summary of certain things, it can actually talk to us in a way that is almost human-like. And moving forward, things will be just a lot more efficient. Like we're seeing the bare minimum of it now, like you and I are using it in some ways within how we do things right now at AE. But I think once people start to learn how to use it, and there's all these tools being created and companies building on top of this, that within the next few years, I think everyone will be using AI tools, whether they realize it or not. And I think that's really exciting as well. So if we could wrap up today's episode, what I would say is, as an action item for you, go to chat.openai.com and play with ChatGPT. You've heard us talk about it. It's an amazing tool. Once you play with it, you'll see the power of it. It's one thing to hear about it. It's another thing to see it. So what I want you to do is go to chat.openai.com and just type in, write me a story on how someone started a productivity blog, and just see what happens. And then just type in whatever else you want to write. For example, you could then type in, give me a title based on this story, and I will give you a title. And then you can get really creative with it. So go check it out. Everything that we just mentioned can be found in the show notes by going to theproductivityshow.com. Thanks again for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time.